Very good morning to all the viewers. I am Dr. Rajesh Singh, Associate Professor from Parul Institute of Law, Parul University. I warm welcome our eminent speaker, Honorable Mr. Justice Paraji Viswanathan Sethi, sir, who is right now presently the Lokayukta of State of Karnataka. Now I will just go to the introductory part of sir. Having completed his schooling and contributed BA from Udupi, Honorable Justice Sethi, sir, has completed his LLB from Udupi Law College, Udupi, and present to Balinga Law College, Udupi. Career as an address has joined Chamber and Advocate General of Courts of Karnataka and Sri Tumhare Krishna and an apprentice on 36 1960, and after getting enrolled as an advocate on 18/1/1966, continued work in the chamber as junior in 1971. Set up independent the year 1971 and subsequently formed the and his associate and his volume of the work in the criminal, civil, civilization, and constitutional law class. Furthermore, he elected and served as the chief of the bar of Karnataka during the year 1999 to 91. As a member of Council and the Executive Council of the General Council of the National Law of Indian University. Also nominated as a member of National Law Reporting Council for the term 97 to 89. Career as a permanent Karnataka on December 95 and served till his retirement on 2nd 2000. Nominated by the Chief Justice of the High Court of Karnataka as a former president of the Karnataka Academy, which was being managed of which other judges were Governor 11th 1989 and continued so in that position until June 2022. Judicial Academy representing one of the best academies this and High Commission UK here at he has located the Zivina and Warwick universities. On this form, I welcome our guest of the on this platform. Sir, on you on this platform, and I will talk about our dean, sir, Dr. Akhil Syed, sir. Dr. Akhil Syed, sir, a dean and director at Parul Institute of Law, Parul University, sir. Sir, total experience of 25 and important director and dean at our universities. He has written, sir, 26 books in his year. He is very dynamic, dean and director this. So I just request Dr. to warn our eminent speaker or judge, Mr. Paraji Viswanathan, sir, Dr. Akhil Syed, sir. Akhil, sir, are you there? Hello? I think, sir, he has some net problem. So we start our session. Sir, the topic of this session, to all the viewers, just I want to remind you that the topic is on the Lokpal and Lokayukta Act. So it is a great privilege, sir, that you are with us. Because of some net problem, our Dean, sir, has not been able to connect because there is a low net problem is there, sir. So we'll start our session. So I am handing this session to our eminent speaker, Honorable Mr. Justice Paraji Viswanathan Sethi, sir, on this platform, who has given a precious time to our university and to our students. Thank you very much, sir. I am handing this session to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajesh Singh. your Dean, Dr. Akhil Syed, my young friends. Good morning to all of you. Hope you are able to hear me. Hope you are able to hear me. Dr.
Sir, we are to hear you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. Now, your professor wanted me to speak or share my thoughts about Lokpal and Lokayukt Act with the students. It will be my pleasure to do so. Before I do that, I think I must speak to the young students about the legal profession. I consider the legal profession is one of the best profession one can opt for. Not because I was a lawyer myself, I am saying it. With my rich experience as a lawyer, as a judge, and as a Lokayukta, I am trying to impress upon young students. The legal profession gives you a lot of scope, opportunity to serve the community, which no other profession gives such an opportunity. No doubt, medicine, teaching are other eminent and highly respected, honorable professions. But the area of functioning of a doctor or a teacher is limited to a particular area. But so far as lawyer is concerned, if he becomes a successful lawyer, area is very wide. It can extend to the nation, it can extend to the international level also. Lawyer will have clients from all cross sections of the society. An agricultural laborer, an industrial worker, IAS officer, ministers, chief ministers, and everybody can be his clients, provided he is able to show that he is capable of delivering the goods. We have accepted a democratic form of government. It functions. We have given ourselves a constitution in the year 1950. We function through our administration of the country, and the states is functioning under the constitutional provisions. Therefore, rule of law is the bedrock of our system. Therefore, a lawyer has a very important say in the administration of the country. I always take pleasure to speaking to young students, and more particularly lawyers. You all know the lawyers had a great role in securing freedom to our country. I will not go referring to their names. Most of us know those names, very eminent. There are several who are not heard today, but they have contributed for freedom movement. Therefore, the role of a lawyer is very, very important and prominent in the progress of the country. A law student should remember, that he is required to equip himself. The knowledge is power. Knowledge is strength. Knowledge, along with integrity, gives you a passport for success in your profession, in your future life. The law students can involve themselves in several activities. They can work as supporting staff. Staff I don't mean as regular employees. Supporting committed people of youngsters of the society in strengthening the Lokpal or Lokayukta institution by bringing to their notice the maladministration in the state administration. They can be active participants in justice delivery system. They can be active participate in Lok Adalat program of the country. They can be assist the litigant. They can, in getting legal aid, they can assist the litigant in redressing their grievances. They can assist the litigants in spreading legal literacy program. These are the activities in which young law student can involve himself. This involvement of a law student in these activities, not only it helps the society, it helps himself. If you go to a village and try to understand the problem of an illiterate person who is seeking for justice, he who is trying to get some benefits of the state for him and his family, he will understand his problem. He will try to get information from him. He will know how to collect the information or the evidence when he is engaged as a lawyer at a later stage of his career. Therefore, experience of life is very important. These things a law student should and required to do it when he is at the college level and university level. It will help him and go a long way to improve his future. In this, it is not sufficient. If the law students are only advised to do this, the professors and teachers of the college have a great and important role to play. It is they who have to guide these young boys and girls. The students are the younger generation of today is the asset of this country. It is the duty of everyone who is comfortably placed in life, who is knowledgeable, who is learned, who is committed to the society to mold the career of young students. It depends upon the commitment of each person. It is also the duty of the society, neighborhood, and the parents to support the younger generation so that they may develop in their future life. Having said this, now I would prefer to share my thoughts with the Lokpal and Lokayuta Act. Lokpal, as all of us know, is discharging the duties of a ombudsman. Our country has accepted or committed to zero tolerance to corruption. These words should not be only in the statute book or only a subject matter of discussion in a seminar. This zero tolerance of corruption is required to be followed by every member of this country. Now, corruption when we speak, maladministration when we talk, we only think of the maladministration and corruption by the public servants. They may be representatives of the people or they may be the curators. But we forget, we ignore, there is another section of the people, society, who are not public servants, who also contribute to a large extent for maladministration in the society, corruption in the society, either by the representatives, either it may be by the representatives of the people or maybe the public servants. Therefore, if our commitment is to eradicate corruption, zero tolerance to corruption, it is not sufficient only telling the people in authority, telling the public servants, you don't be corrupt and others can be corrupt. All corruption takes place. All maladministration all the maladministration and corruption, there is a abator. Abator is a private person, is a private citizen. He wants to get certain benefits out of turn. He entices, he inspires the public servants with attractions to be dishonest, to corrupt, and to become corrupt, to indulge in maladministration. Therefore, there should be an attempt, overall attempt in the country to inculcate discipline and character among the people of our nation, and more particularly, forget about people like persons like me who are at the fag end of our career. But the younger generation must be inspired, must be trained, must be told how bad the corruption is, how vicious it is, how it is worse than COVID-19, which we are facing today, how it is worse than a cancerous, deadly disease. Disease we are required to inculcate, convince the younger generation, and through them we must send a message. It is not difficult. If a youngster in a house tells his parents, who may be public servants, who may be the industrialists, who may be doing private persons, Papa, Mummy, please avoid in the supporting corruption or indulging in maladministration or supporting maladministration. Each house is required to be free from maladministration. If you politely, youngster tells his parents, politely tells, I don't want to be fed. I don't want to be given a car or a vehicle or good clothing by your ill-gotten wealth. I don't want a house which you construct. Stay in a house which you construct out of your ill-gotten wealth. If this message is spread in every house in the country, the days will not be far off that we can have, to a large extent, a country free from maladministration, a country free from administration. Lokpal and Lokact, the object of Lokpal and Lokact is to make the country transparent in its administration, make the country free from corruption and maladministration. But with few officers, with few judges who are heading these institutions, with few eminent persons who are committed to the society, who are committed to eradicate corruption, it will be very difficult to improve the system unless the members of the public, the citizens of this country wholeheartedly support and join the authorities who are placed in charge of eradicating corruption in this country. Now, over the years, we know the Ombudsman was started. We are party to the UNO resolution. Pursuant to that, I will not go into the history of it. Then the reforms, administrative reforms commissions made recommendations, and we are all aware of 2011-12 movement led by Anna Hazare, India Against Corruption. As a result of it, the Lokpal Act and Lokact Act 1913 came to be passed by the Parliament. But it came into force, the actual constitution of the Parliament, the Lokpal came into about 2 years back. The whole object of the Lokpal and the Lokact, as mentioned me earlier, to put a control over corruption. Corruption is one aspect of maladministration in the state. The maladministration seriously affects the growth of a village, growth of a taluk, a district, and the state and the country. It is a slow poison. It is a slow poison. Therefore, to put an end, to put a break in maladministration is very, very important. Corruption may be for financial greed, maybe to show some benefit to others. We have Prevention of Corruption Act I will not go into detail what is meant by corruption. Is showing a favor in the discharge of your duty to benefit somebody, also amounts to corruption. Maladministration, inefficiency may not be a financial corruption. It or laziness in discharging your duties. You come to the office, you are paid by the public exchequer. You are required to work for 8 or 9 hours a day, but you while away your time in office. You won't touch the file unless somebody who is going to be affected by it comes and speaks to you in the way you want to speak to him. This is also a maladministration, a part of corruption. Not necessarily you should receive money to do a job. One should not be corrupt, not only because he is going to be punished, not only because he is going to be prosecuted, not only because a disciplinary inquiry will be initiated against him, he will be dismissed from service, but his own interest, in the interest of his family, in the interest of his children, his nephews and nieces and parents, one has to lead a life of purity and transparency. We have a problem here in the society. Somebody will be known as a son or a daughter of a dishonest public servant. Somebody will be known as a dishonest son of a father of a dishonest son or daughter who is the public servant. Both have to bend their head. If the father or the parents are corrupt, children have to bend their head for no fault of theirs, for the mistake they have not committed. If the children are bad, corrupt and dishonest, parents who have led a honest life and leading their, are at the fag end of their career, will have to bend their head when they go out for a walk or public place. Therefore, if you are really want to lead a good life, respectful life, there is nothing like leading a very honest, upright life. One will know only at a later stage of his career of the advantage of leading a clean life. The makers of law felt by only seminars and lectures like this will not achieve the goal of bringing about transparency and clean administration. It is felt, universally felt, an element of force, an element of threat of putting a dishonest person, a corrupt bureaucrat, a public servant, a representative of the people behind the bars and making him to lose his position is the only way to curb corruption in maladministration. To send a message to others who may be tempted to become corrupt, not to follow the corrupt means in their daily life. Therefore, the Lokpal and Lokayukt Act is a great boon given to the country by the Parliament, and it is a duty of everybody, every authority, every government, maybe the government of India or the state governments, to strengthen this institution. We find in some places, some state governments are slowly trying to dilute the provisions of Lokayukt Act. This has to be resisted. This has to be resisted by the public, by creating public opinion. It has to be curbed by the judicial institutions, has to be curbed by the constitutional courts, by interpreting, by taking action, by intervening wherever it is possible and permissible within the parameter of constitutional law, by setting aside, by curbing those tendencies to dilute the Lokpal or Lokayuta institution. So far as Lokpal is concerned, the constitution, now all of us know who can be the qualification to become a Lokpal. Chairman of the Lokpal, members of the Lokpal, and the selection process. The selection process, the power of appointment of chairman of the Lokpal and members of the Lokpal is conferred on the highest executive of the country, that the President of India, on the recommendation to be made by a very high power committee consisting of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, the 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 Chief Justice of India or his nominee, and one eminent person, eminent jurist, the Speaker of the House of the People, and leader of now, subsequent to the amendment. Earlier it was the leader of the opposition. Now the leader of the single largest party are the members of the selection committee. Prime Minister, who is accountable to the country, is one of the members of the selection committee, because he is responsible for the country if something goes wrong. Then the Chief Justice of India, head of the Indian judiciary, is another member. And the leader, whenever there is no leader of the opposition, the leader of the single largest party, and one other eminent member of the party. Therefore, the Constitutional Selection Committee is a very high committee, a very responsible committee. Therefore, we must normally trust that committee for making a choice of very eminent and suitable persons to be the chairman or members of the Lokpal. A qualification is also prescribed for that. The Chief Justice or a judge of the Supreme Court can be chairman, and or a judge of the Supreme Court or Chief Justice of the High Court can be 4 members. Out of 8 members, 4 are judicial members, 4 are non-judicial members. Even among judicial members, further criteria is fixed, 1 each from scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, backward classes, and minorities and women. Therefore, there was a lot of thinking has gone into the constitution of the Lokpal. It should be representative in character, giving representation to all cross sections of society who satisfy the requirement of qualification fixed of being a Supreme Court judge or a Chief Justice of India, or to be a non-member of the committee, other eminent persons, and their term is also fixed. They are for a period of 5 years or till they attain the age of 70 years. They are made independent and strong. They cannot very lightly, arbitrarily remove their office. They can be removed from the office for the proved misconduct on the basis of an inquiry held by the judge of the Supreme Court. The whole object of this is that this Lokpal should be a strong and independent body institution. The message to the country is that India, as observed earlier, committed zero tolerance for corruption. Lakhs and lakhs of crores of rupees are dumped for development of the country in various fields, maybe for social welfare, maybe for improvement of the backward classes, maybe for healthcare, maybe for education, maybe development of other infrastructure like roads, etc., construction of bridges. Huge money, public money is spent, but it is disappointing that what is required to be spent, if the 100 rupees is required to be spent, that 100 rupees is not being spent for the purpose for which it is being allotted. Any delusion in this, any pilferage in this, not only gives scope for enhancement of the wealth of a dishonest public servant, but also it affects the growth of the development. Growth of development. You will have to pump this money year after year for the growth of the country. Therefore, curbing corruption along with other developmental activities of the country is very, very important. The priority should be to curb corruption, to curb maladministration, to give preference, to encourage transparency in administration, objectivity in administration, to pick up the officers or public servants who are committed to the work they are chosen and remove, to get rid of the useless, get rid of the dishonest, get rid of the non-functioning public servants. Then only a clear message must go around the country by the state authorities that we have suffered enough and more, we'll put an end to it. This can be done. We have provided, Lokpal Act provides for a high committee, selection committee. The selection committee is required to be assisted by a search committee of eminent people. But all this depends upon how the things are actually work in the ground level. Therefore, everybody, whether he is a search committee or in the selection committee, have a greater responsibility in making a choice of correct persons to the institution. Any delusion in a selection of a wrong person, it will have a cascading effect. It will destroy the institution. It will destroy the transparency in the administration of the country. Therefore, what is important is making a correct choice of the persons who satisfy the qualification. There are a large number of persons, retired judges or sitting judges, who may satisfy the requirement of the qualification fixed. That doesn't mean all of them are suitable, are very suitable. Therefore, selection committee and the search committee has to bestow lot of attention among large number of good people available, who is most suitable to the position, who can discharge his duty once he or she is appointed fearlessly, in a balanced mode, in a balanced manner. I will emphasize the balance also. There should not be thirst for power by the members or the chairman of the Lokpal and Lokayat. They must be committed to the work. They must be balanced. They must keep in mind the object of administration, the serious consequences, any effect of any wrong decision taken in a hurry or without considering the materials that are required to be taken into account. Then the who against whom the Lokpal is conferred the power. Lokpal is selected by a high-powered committee. One of the committee member is the Prime Minister of the country. Once the Lokpal is constituted, this Lokpal is given permission, given power, even to proceed against a Prime Minister and other ministers, members of the Parliament, and public servants who command a group A, B, C, D. Therefore, if you ask me personally, I am not in favor of including the Prime Minister within the ambit of the Lokpal. Of course, now it has been done, subject to only certain exceptions provided under the Act. I will not go into the details of it. Prime Minister is also comes within the purview of the Lokpal. My view was Prime Minister must be kept above this. He should not be at any moment feel even remotely there is somebody, we are not very sure, the allegations are made only when there is a basis for the allegation to be made. We are liberal in making allegations against everybody. Even the best of persons are not left free. Allegations are made at the time of appointment so that they may run away saying that I don't want this. But there are people who will face it because they are clear. Therefore, of course, now it is too late, Prime Minister is included, but Lokpal has to be very, very balanced while proceeding against. They must be satisfied. The procedure is provided and on consideration. So far the Prime Minister is concerned, all the 8 members have to take a unanimous decision, or at least a majority of the members have to take a decision. Then, so far as the selection process is concerned, there is a decision of the Supreme Court. When the Upalokayucta of Karnataka came to be appointed, without consulting the Chief Justice of Karnataka High Court about few years back, I think 2012 or 2013, his appointment came to be challenged. That is a report decision known as Chandrasekharaya versus Jnana Krishna, reported in 2013, 3 essays, 117. What is said of this decision in the matter of appointment of Lokayucta or Upalokayucta, in my considered view, to a large extent, may apply to the appointment of chairman or members of the Lokpal. The only difference being that President shall appoint on the recommendation of the selection committee. That means majority view. But here, on the advice of the Chief Minister of the Karnataka is required to consult 5 other constitutional authorities. That is the chairman of the Speaker of the Assembly, chairman of the Council, leader of the opposition in the Assembly, leader of the opposition in the Council, and the Chief Justice. In that case, Chief Justice of the High Court was not consulted and a public interest litigation was instituted. Then the Division Bench of the High Court took the view that not only took the view, the appointment was bad because Chief Justice was not consulted, but proceeded one step further and laid down. The Chief Justice of the High Court has a privacy in the matter of consultation, almost saying the views expressed by the Chief Justice is final. If that principle are to be applied, and if that law is to hold the field today, possibly even for Lokpal is concerned, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India can veto the appointment of any judge as a member, as a chairperson of the Lokpal or Lokpal. But the Supreme Court deferred, set aside that view of the High Court and took the view the Chief Justice is one of the consultees along with other 5 consultees, and it is only on the advice of the Chief Minister, the Governor of the state is required to make an appointment. All a detailed order by His Lordship Justice Radhakrishnan and Justice Madan Lokur, of course they gave a different reasoning but concurred. The principle is all the other 5 consultees are in stand in equal footing. What is required is Chief Minister is required to have a very meaningful consultation with these 5 authorities. No one, constitutional authorities, no one has a supremacy. Therefore, even in the appointment of Lokpal is concerned, on the recommendation of the constitutional authorities, refer to Prime Minister, leader of the largest single party, opposition party, Chief Justice of India, and eminent jurist. The selection recommendation is required to be made. President is required to make the appointment. Then the question of the disciplinary proceedings. There are section 14, the provides how the inquiries has to be. Then of course salary and other things are there. I will not refer to it. Then the restrictions after the ACs, they are divisible to hold certain posts. Then the Lokpal has 2 wings. One is an inquiry wing and a prosecution wing. The inquiry wing relates to disciplinary inquiries. The prosecution wing relates to the prosecution of the offenders who have committed an offense under PC Act of Prevention of Corruption and instituting proceedings, criminal proceedings before the criminal court. The officers are required to be made available. They can create a staff. All this, the chairman and the authorities are given. Lokpal is given the power to entrust the inquiry as set out in detail in those provisions. Then section 20 and it also section 15 says, I already referred to section 14. So far as jurisdiction is concerned, then section 15 says any inquiry before Lokpal will not come in the way of the institutional proceedings already initiated before any other court or committee. Then 16 provides for constitution as a bench, and 19 provides that the distribution of the majority is final. Then section 20 provides for the procedure related to complaints and premier inquiry, confers power on the Lokpal to entrust the inquiry to any agency. The details are set out, and all these details are set out in section 20 to protect. While power is given to the Lokpal, it also envisages, it implies there should be sufficient protection to the erring public servant. It should not be a casual inquiry. There should be a clear application of mind by the institution of Lokpal and only on the basis of evidence available, on the basis of material available, the proceedings, either for disciplinary proceedings or criminal prosecution, is required to be instituted. Because any wrong institution of proceedings, it will seriously damage the reputation of the public servant. It will seriously send a wrong message to other, because public may not know what type of a public servant one is. His colleagues will know, the bureaucracy will know, other public servants will know whether somebody is dishonest, efficient or not. They have their own section of the public servants. Therefore, while Lokpal or Lokayukt have an obligation and duty to look or to bring to justice a dishonest, corrupt public servant, they also have a duty and obligation in public interest to say no honest or upright officer is unnecessarily harassed and made to stand a trial and defamed in the eyes of the public. Therefore, one such principle, well-established principle is, when you are given enormous power, that power has to be exercised sparingly, carefully, with a greater restraint. Therefore, whether it is a Lokpal as an institution or Lokayukta as an institution, since they are given in states, most of the states, Karnataka as a Lokayukta has a very wide powers. It functions through judicial officers who are the district judges, most of them, and few of them civil judges, senior division and civil judges. You have a big police wing. Till about 5 years back, the Lokayukta had the power of instituting criminal filing, register FIR. But about 5 years back, the Karnataka government took away that power by means of a notification that is a subject matter of writ petition pending before the Karnataka High Court. Since Lokayukta, we have filed a statement before the court taking an exception to the decision of the government, taking away that power and setting out in detail, more particularly referring to section 63 of the Lokpal Act, which obliges all the states to enact a Lokayukta Act for the purpose of curbing corruption, for removal of corruption. When that is a mandate of the central law passed by the parliament, it is not permissible to take away the power of investigation by the Lokayukta under by the Lokayukta under PC Act, because since it is before the Honorable High Court and matters were heard to a large extent, I don't want to deal with that in detail in a seminar like this. What I'm saying is, there should be a uniform Lokayukta enactment throughout the country. There should be a uniform Lokayukta. There should be a uniform procedure, possibly Karnataka Lokayukta provision can be the ideal act to a large extent. Some minor changes are concerned. Instead of one member getting into investigation against the chief minister, a bench can be constituted so that when the chief minister is involved, because many a times political complaints are filed against the chief ministers, the ministers. Therefore, to give greater transparency and objectivity and creation of public confidence. It is always desirable. It is my personal view. Not that individual Lokayukta is incapable of deciding it, but comments may be the scope for comment to avoid that. A bench is desirable, subject to these minor things which may require. We consider the greater detail and debate and consultation. To a large extent, Karnataka Act can be taken as an ideal act for the country, and the power of investigation must be built into the Lokayukta Act. It's of investigation and instituting proceedings. In fact, there is a provision in Karnataka Act, Section 14. Lokayukta can file a complaint for instituting a criminal complaint. Though my personal view is, even if the power is taken away, Lokayukta could still exercise that power, but I have not done it because this very question is before the High Court. Power is that, and the Lokayukta Act says the sanction. So far, the Lokayukta directs institution the proceedings, sanction prosecution is deemed to have been. Same is the similar is the provision in the Lokpal Act. Lot of thinking has gone while passing Lokpal Act and Lokayukta Acts in several parts of the country. From the experience, past experience, there is a scope for improvement. We can't achieve everything overnight in 24 hours or 365 days. Ours is a very vast country, both population-wise and area-wise, with the large cross-sections of society belonging to different cross-sections. Aspirations are different, demands are different, thinking is different. There is innumerable aspirations, problems. Therefore, all these institutions, improvements have to be done over the years with the experience. For the country, a good beginning has been done, Lokpal has been established, and it is the duty of everybody to support it. At this juncture, I must tell to my young law students, when I was a younger member of the bar, I was a junior, joined by the then Advocate General of Karnataka on 30th of June 1965 as an apprentice. I continued at that time, as per the rules, we continued for 6 months. 66, I got myself enrolled. I was hardly 21 and a half years when I joined my senior's office. This experience of mine, I'm sharing with my young students to tell them, convey them. I come from a village. My father was not a lawyer, not a judge, not a public servant. He was an agriculture. No doubt, I belong to a comfortable landed class agricultural family. But my village at that time was surrounded by river, water on the 3 sides. There was no facilities of vehicle, not even a car. As a child, I used to be carried by other people. We used to go to, my grandfather was a village Patel in another village. He used to pay to the Tahsildar's office to pay land revenue in a bullock cart. As a young child, I used to accompany, young boy used to accompany before I started going to school. From there, I moved to Bangalore to practice. Of course, all my brothers were educated, lawyers and doctors that know how my parents took care of seeing that their children are well educated. I had that advantage. My senior told me once, what he said at that time in 1966 or 67, every day I feel it is correct. He said, excess money with anyone is dangerous to the society. I want my young students to mark. Excess money with anyone is dangerous to the society. Second sentence he said was, they think, people with excess money, they think they can buy everybody. Therefore, corruption has to be curbed, because if you allow anybody
Hello. Sir? Hello. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello, sir. Hello, Jiten sir. Jiten sir. Jiten sir. Hello. Jiten sir. Hello, Jiten sir. Sir, yes, sir. Sir, question number one is, sir, if suppose any matter is with the Lokayukta, sir, if a person is aggrieved by that judgment, so where he can appeal the order of that judgment?
he can file a writ petition. He can approach the High Court under 226 or 227 and challenge the order of the Lokayukta.
Okay.
If it is a,
Okay,
we
sir.
make it, so far as disciplinary jurisdiction is concerned, we make a recommendation to the government under section 12(3) of the Karnataka Lokayukta Act against the with regard to the misconduct committed by the public servant. That can be on the government after examining the report of the Lokayukta or the Upalokayukta, as we have two Upalokayuktas here, both are retired High Court judges, then the government will issue a notification for entrusting the inquiry to the Lokayukta. Thereafter, the judicial officers of the Lokayukta, district judges, mostly, some of them retired district judges, when we are not able to get sufficient number of sitting judges from the High Court, they will give a report, give a finding with regard to the charges leveled against them, and again that is sent to the government. Government takes a decision, and if the government accepts the report, then the punishment is imposed. That can be challenged before the Karnataka State Administrative Tribunal. Against that decision of the tribunal, again, they can approach the High Court. In other matters, criminal matters, it is open to them, or merely report. Somebody is aggrieved. They wanted an inquiry to be conducted. Lokayukta closes the inquiry, saying there is no case made up. Person aggrieved can challenge that order in a writ petition before the High Court. Hope it is clear. Any doubt you can put questions. Hello, Professor Singh.
Yes, sir. Sir,
doubt?
it is really very.
Pardon?
Yes, sir. Sir, we have one more question from one student. Hello.
Tell me,
Sir, I am audible?
Yes, you are audible. I don't know whether I am audible.
Sir. No. Sir, I am also able to listen you. Sir, a second student has asked that if suppose in the state there is a police officer or any public servant is being captured or he has been caught, that man.
Pardon? Question is not. If
a police officer or any public servant is being charged, it introduction of the local.
Professor Rajesh, for any.
Getting my question.
Your question is not clear. There is a break of voice, and I have not been able to follow the question clearly.
Hello.
I presume that your question is if there is any misconduct committed by the police officer, whether Lokayukta can take action. Is it so?
Okay.
Is it your question? Under Lokayukta Act, some matters
Yes,
Lokayukta cannot investigate. That is relating to service matters concerning service, because that service tribunal is there. Even in respect of the misconduct by the police, if there is an alternative remedy also, Lokayukta should not interfere. That is generally. But if there is serious misconduct,
lost. Sir, only 1 minute, sir.
He wants to talk with you. Please talk with him.
Hello. 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 So thanks very much to give a to
Voice is breaking.
friend. Sir, sir, now is audible, sir.
Now audible,
Hello?
but tell me.
Sir, first of all, sir, I am very thankful that you have delivered a fantastic session to our university. Our university is very much thankful to you, sir. And our president has also sent a message that give regards to, and it is a great pleasure, sir. You have a precious time. Understand that your time is very. I am thankful on this virtual platform. You have every session in a very good way, sir, and we have a recording of this. Our student will continuously see and listen this. So a fantastic session you and by your lordship on this platform. I am very much thankful from entire Parul Institute of Law, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor. It was my pleasure to speak to you young students. I believe that is the duty of everyone who is fairly successful in life to improve the quality of the younger generation. As mentioned earlier, they are the future of this country. You must see that they become citizens, efficient, honest, and upright. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share few of my thoughts with you, more particularly about Lokpal and Lokayukta Act. Thank you.
Thank you and thanks a lot, sir, for your blessing to our student. So we are very much thankful to you, sir.
Now tell me how many students are